I never thought a simple moment of peace could spiral into a nightmare. The afternoon sun filtered softly through the city's towering buildings, casting long shadows over the bustling streets. But here, in this quiet corner, Vivian Carter sought a rare refuge. Dressed plainly, her sharp eyes scanned the worn brick walls around her, blending into the background as just another face in the crowd. She had fought her entire life for this calm, escaping a tough childhood in a neighborhood that offered little mercy. Now, as one of the world's most powerful business leaders, Vivian treasured these moments of solitude like precious jewels. But the stillness shattered. Heavy footsteps echoed down the empty street, each one a thunderous warning. Vivian's gaze flicked up, sensing something was wrong. Officer Bryce Walker appeared, his stare cold and merciless. He stepped closer, voice dripping with disdain. "You think you belong here?" he sneered. "This isn't a place for people like you." Vivian's heart hammered fiercely, but her voice remained steady. "I'm not doing anything wrong." Walker's lips curled into a cruel smile. "I decide what's right, and sitting here, you're wrong." She didn't move. She wouldn't show fear. Then his hand grabbed her arm, rough and unforgiving. The world narrowed to cold metal, harsh lights, and the tightening grip of injustice. And in that moment, Vivian realized this fight was far from over. I never thought a simple moment of peace could spiral into a nightmare. The afternoon sun filtered softly through the city's towering buildings, casting long shadows over the bustling streets. But here, in a quiet corner off a busy avenue, Vivian Carter sought refuge. Wearing a simple jacket and jeans, she blended easily with the passers-by, an unassuming figure in a world that often demanded attention. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the worn brick walls around her. This was her sanctuary, a rare moment away from boardrooms and flashing cameras. Despite her billionaire status, Vivian craved anonymity, a chance to breathe without the weight of expectations. The sounds of the city faded into the background. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, even the faint laughter of children playing nearby. It was a fragile calm, one she cherished deeply. Suddenly, heavy footsteps disrupted the quiet. The echo bounced off the pavement, growing louder, closer. Vivian's breath caught. She looked up, her instincts on high alert. Officer Bryce Walker appeared at the end of the street. His presence was ominous, broad-shouldered, with a cold, hard gaze that seemed to pierce through the afternoon haze. His lips curled into a sneer as he approached. "You think you can just sit here?" Walker's voice was rough, laced with contempt. Vivian met his gaze without flinching. She remained still, calm despite the tension tightening in her chest. Years of struggle had taught her to hold her ground. "This is a decent neighborhood," Walker continued, eyes narrowing. "Not a place for people like you." Vivian's hands clenched inside her coat. Anger surged, but she held it back, channeling it into steady resolve. "I'm not doing anything wrong," she said quietly, her voice steady but firm. Walker stepped closer, invading her space. "I decide what's right or wrong here," he hissed. "And sitting here looking like that, that's wrong." The air grew thick with tension. Vivian's heartbeat quickened, but her posture stayed strong. "You have no right to tell me where I belong," she replied, her eyes locked on his. Walker's smirk twisted into a sneer. "Maybe I should teach you a lesson about respecting the law." His hand moved to his gun belt, a silent threat. Vivian didn't flinch. "You think you're smart, huh?" he taunted, stepping even closer. She stayed silent, her gaze steady. She had faced far worse than empty threats. Then, without warning, Walker grabbed her arm roughly, yanking her to her feet. "Do you think there's anyone here to protect you?" he growled. "Here I am, the law." Pain flared in Vivian's arm, but she met his glare with unyielding courage. Before the situation could escalate further, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Take your hands off her now." Walker spun around, eyes flashing with anger and surprise. Daniel Reed stepped forward, his stance firm, unafraid. "This isn't your business," Walker snarled. "I saw everything," Daniel said steadily. "And I won't stand by while she's treated unfairly." Walker hesitated, then released Vivian, shooting a warning look. "This isn't over," he warned. "Be careful." Daniel remained between them, protective and resolute. Vivian exhaled slowly, the tension easing but her resolve hardening. "Thank you," she said quietly to Daniel, her voice sincere. He nodded. We'll make sure he's held accountable. But as relief settled, another patrol car pulled up, lights flashing. 2 officers stepped out, their faces stern. You need to come with us, one said flatly. Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but Vivian shook her head. Her gaze was steady. I'll be fine. Daniel's eyes showed worry. I'll contact a lawyer. Don't let them do anything without one. Vivian gave a small, confident smile. I know. She climbed into the patrol car, the cold metal seat a stark reminder of the fight ahead. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the storm just beginning. The patrol car's engine rumbled as it pulled away from the quiet corner where Vivian had sought a moment of peace. The flashing red and blue lights danced across the passing buildings, casting fleeting shadows on her determined face. Inside the car, the cold seat pressed against her back. She felt the harsh reality closing in, but her mind remained clear, focused. Vivian refused to let fear dictate her next moves. The officers exchanged terse words in the front seats. Vivian remained silent, her gaze fixed on the window, watching the familiar cityscape blur past, buildings, streetlights, pedestrians, everything seeming both distant and foreign. At the police station, the car doors slammed, echoing through the sterile, silent hallways. Vivian stepped out, her heels clicking sharply against the cold floor. The station was a world apart. Harsh fluorescent lights, the sharp scent of disinfectant, walls lined with metal lockers and cold steel benches. The atmosphere was heavy, oppressive. 2 officers led her down a narrow corridor. The echo of footsteps and murmured conversations surrounded them, but no one stopped to look. They reached the interrogation room, its door yawning open like a trap. Vivian took a deep breath before stepping inside. The room was small and stark, a bare metal table between her and the harsh glare of the overhead light. The chill in the air seeped into her bones. Officer Walker stood waiting, his face a mask of smug satisfaction. His eyes locked onto hers with unreadable contempt. So, he began, voice low and dripping with menace. Do you really think standing there with your little defender changed anything? Vivian's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. I'm not here to play games, Walker sneered. You think you're special, that someone will always save you. The door creaked open and a woman stepped in, Sandra Mills. She carried a briefcase and a sharp, unwavering gaze. Walker, Sandra said firmly. You're here to answer questions, not intimidate. Walker's smirk faltered but did not disappear. Behind Sandra, Daniel appeared, standing tall and resolute. His eyes met Vivian's, offering silent support. Walker's tone grew colder. This is my station, my rules. Sandra's voice cut through the tension. Not anymore. The interrogation began. Walker's questions were loaded, designed to unsettle, to provoke. Vivian met each with calm, asserting her rights without hesitation. Her strength surprised even Daniel. He leaned in, ready to intervene if needed, but Vivian held her ground. Minutes stretched into hours. The harsh light, the cold room, the weight of injustice pressed down, but Vivian's resolve did not waver. Suddenly, Walker's tone shifted, darker now. You think you can come in here and tell me what to do? Vivian's eyes burned with quiet fury. I'm telling the truth, and that's all I owe you. Walker stepped back, frustration flickering across his face. At that moment, the door opened again. This time, it was a chance for Vivian, a chance to fight back. The heavy door swung open, and Sandra Mills stepped into the interrogation room, her presence commanding and calm. She set down her black briefcase with a soft thud, her sharp eyes immediately locking onto Vivian's. Vivian, I'm here to help, Sandra said, her voice steady but filled with determination. Daniel followed behind, his gaze resolute and protective. He took a seat beside Vivian, offering a reassuring smile. The atmosphere shifted. The cold, hostile air began to warm slightly with the promise of support. Sandra opened her briefcase, pulling out a thick notebook. We need to hear everything, from the moment you were approached to now. Every detail matters. Vivian took a deep breath, steadying the surge of emotions threatening to rise. She met Sandra's eyes and began to speak. I was sitting quietly, just taking a moment to myself, Vivian started, her voice controlled but edged with the pain of memory. Then Officer Walker appeared. His tone was harsh, full of contempt. She recounted the confrontation, the way Walker sneered, accused her of not belonging, and ordered her to leave a neighborhood she had every right to be in. Vivian's hands clenched in her lap as she described how he had shoved her roughly and grabbed her arm, his grip tightening like a vice. Sandra's pen moved swiftly, capturing every word, every emotion. Daniel listened quietly, his fists clenched with growing anger at the injustice unfolding before him. "He has a reputation," Sandra said once Vivian finished. "Stories about his abuse of power, but no one has dared to challenge him. Until now." Vivian looked up, her eyes burning with quiet fire. "It's time someone did," Daniel nodded. "We'll stand with you. This isn't just about you, it's about exposing a system that allows this to happen." Walker's voice broke through the room as he entered abruptly, a cold smile playing on his lips. "You really think having backup changes anything?" Vivian's gaze didn't waver. "I don't think I know." Walker's expression twisted in frustration, but Sandra stepped forward. "We will bring this to light, Walker," she said firmly, "and no amount of intimidation will stop us." The tension thickened, but Vivian felt a newfound strength coursing through her veins. She was no longer alone. The fight had just begun. Back in a small, quiet conference room, Vivian sat across from Sandra and Daniel, the weight of recent events heavy in the air. The soft hum of the city outside was a stark contrast to the charged atmosphere inside. Sandra spread out legal documents on the table, her fingers tracing the edges of the papers. "We have a strong case against Walker, but this is about more than one man. It's about a system that allows abuse to go unchecked." Daniel nodded, his eyes locked on Vivian. "We'll file a lawsuit against Walker and the police department, demand a full investigation." Vivian exhaled slowly, the exhaustion settling in, but a spark of determination flickered in her eyes. "This isn't just about me, it's for everyone who's been silenced." Sandra leaned forward. "We'll need your full story, every detail, no matter how small. We'll build a timeline that exposes the pattern." Daniel added, "The media will get involved soon. We need to prepare for public attention, both support and backlash." Vivian's fingers tapped the table rhythmically. "I'm ready, I've faced worse." Sandra smiled, a rare warmth breaking through her professional facade. "Good, we'll make sure Walker and anyone enabling him are held accountable." Daniel's gaze hardened. "They'll fight back. Try to discredit you, weaken the case. We have to be ready." Vivian's voice was steady, filled with quiet resolve. "Let them try, I won't back down." The three of them sat in silence, a silent pact forming between them. Outside, the city moved on, but inside that room, a battle was being planned. A battle for justice, for truth, and for the voices that had long been ignored. This was only the beginning. The next days brought a whirlwind of attention. Vivian's story spread like wildfire across news outlets and social media. Her name became a beacon for those tired of silence. In her sleek office overlooking the city skyline, Vivian stared at the endless stream of comments scrolling on her screen. Praise and support mixed with harsh criticism and doubt. "She's brave," one comment read. "A true pioneer." Another sneered, "Is this just a publicity stunt?" What's her real agenda? Vivian's fingers hovered over the keyboard but didn't type. She had learned long ago to filter noise, to focus on what mattered. Daniel's call broke through her thoughts. "Have you seen the backlash? It's intense." Vivian's voice was calm but weary. "I have, it's expected." Daniel sighed. "They'll dig into your past, twist the truth. We have to be prepared." Vivian nodded, determination returning. "I'm ready for whatever comes." Sandra arrived that afternoon, documents in hand, her expression serious. "The press conference is set. This is our chance to control the narrative." Vivian took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I want to tell the truth clear and strong," Sandra smiled. "That's what will make them listen." The day of the conference arrived. Cameras flashed, reporters murmured, and anticipation filled the room. Vivian stepped up to the podium, heart steady, eyes shining with purpose. "Thank you all for being here," she began, voice ringing out clearly. "This is not just my story, it's the story of countless others who have been silenced." Questions came fast, some supportive, others probing her motives. An older journalist challenged, "Is this about justice or self-promotion?" Vivian met his gaze without hesitation. I've worked hard for everything I have. This is about dignity, fairness, and stopping abuse. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling. Outside, the world was watching, and for the first time, many were ready to listen. The door to Vivian's office opened quietly, and Officer Grant stepped in, his face lined with fatigue and resolve. The room, filled with sunlight, seemed to hold its breath. I need to speak with you, Grant said, voice low but urgent. Vivian gestured for him to sit, her curiosity piqued. I've worked alongside Walker for years, Grant began, his gaze steady. I've seen things, abuse of power, targeting those who couldn't defend themselves. He swallowed hard, the weight of his confession heavy. I stayed silent out of fear and pressure, but when I saw how you stood up, I realized I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Vivian's eyes searched his face, seeing the sincerity and risk in his words. What changed? She asked softly. Grant exhaled slowly. You gave me hope. Showed me that speaking out mattered. Daniel, who had entered behind Grant, nodded approvingly. Your testimony could turn the tide. Grant's face tightened with the reality. I know this puts my career on the line. Sandra's voice was firm but encouraging. Your courage can bring justice, not just for Vivian, but for everyone affected. Grant looked directly at Vivian. I'm ready to testify, to tell the truth. A silence settled, thick with the weight of this new alliance. Vivian felt a surge of gratitude and strength. She was no longer fighting alone. Together, they were beginning to dismantle a system built on silence and fear. The courthouse buzzed with tension as the trial began. Reporters crowded the gallery, their cameras clicking incessantly, capturing every moment. Vivian sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by Sandra and Daniel. Her heart pounded, but her gaze was steady, filled with determination. Across the room, Officer Walker took his place at the defendant's table, his face cold and calculating. His legal team whispered strategies, eyes darting nervously. Sandra rose to address the jury, her voice clear and commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not just about one officer's misconduct, she said, locking eyes with each juror. It is about a culture of abuse that has gone unchallenged for too long. She presented the evidence, the encounter, the unlawful arrest, and the pattern of Walker's behavior. The courtroom grew quiet as Officer Grant was called to the stand. He walked forward, tension evident, but his voice unwavering. I have witnessed Officer Walker abusing his power, targeting those who cannot defend themselves, Grant testified. I stayed silent for years, but no longer. His testimony sent ripples through the courtroom. Walker's confident facade faltered. His hands clenched the edge of the table. Sandra's questioning was precise, exposing inconsistencies in the defense's arguments and reinforcing the truth. Daniel watched from his seat, pride and hope swelling inside him. Walker's lawyers attempted to defend him, weaving a narrative of misinterpretation and duty, but Sandra skillfully dismantled their claims. As the day ended, Vivian felt a cautious optimism. The battle was far from over, but the truth was breaking through the shadows. She stepped outside into the fading light, breathing in the cool air. This fight for justice had just begun. The courtroom was hushed as the cross-examination began. Walker's lawyer approached the witness stand with a calm smile, eyes sharp and calculating. Officer Grant, the lawyer began, voice smooth but probing. You've worked alongside Officer Walker for many years. Is it possible your testimony is motivated by personal grievances? Grant's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. My motive is justice. I stayed silent too long. Speaking up now is the right thing to do. The lawyer pressed on, attempting to undermine Grant's credibility, questioning details and timing. Sandra rose, interrupting with measured confidence. Objections sustained, she said firmly, then turned to Grant. Please continue. Grant recounted specific incidents, unprovoked force, intimidation of vulnerable individuals, and the culture of fear. The jury listened intently, faces reflecting the weight of the revelations. Walker sat rigid, the tension visible in his clenched fists and furrowed brow. Sandra's questions revealed the systemic nature of abuse, connecting dots that Walker's defense tried to blur. The courtroom's atmosphere thickened with anticipation as the closing arguments approached. Outside, reporters gathered, exchanging whispered predictions. Back inside, Vivian sat quietly, heart-pounding but resolute. The jury was dismissed to deliberate, a moment stretching endlessly. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on Vivian's shoulder. "We'll hear soon," he said softly. Time slowed. Every tick of the clock amplified the silence. Finally, the courtroom doors opened. The jury returned. All eyes fixed on the foreperson holding the verdict. "We find the defendant, Officer Bryce Walker, guilty on all counts." A wave of relief and applause swept through the room. Vivian exhaled, a burden lifted. Justice had prevailed, for now. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as the verdict was announced. Vivian sat still, her breath caught in her throat. The words "guilty on all counts" echoed like a promise fulfilled. Walker's face went pale, disbelief flashing in his eyes. His legal team exchanged worried glances, the weight of defeat settling heavily. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Supporters cheered, their voices rising in waves of relief and celebration. Reporters clamored to capture the moment, cameras flashing as Vivian stepped forward to speak. She raised her hand, calling for silence. "Today," Vivian began, her voice strong and steady, "we proved that justice is not a privilege reserved for the few. It is a right that belongs to all of us." Her eyes scanned the crowd, shining with gratitude and determination. "This victory is not mine alone. It belongs to everyone who has been silenced, dismissed, or oppressed." The applause swelled, a chorus of hope and resilience. Daniel stood nearby, his smile proud but tempered with the knowledge that this was just one battle in a longer war. Sandra joined Vivian, her expression fierce and proud. Back inside, Walker sat motionless, the reality of his actions laid bare. Vivian felt a surge of emotion, a mix of relief, exhaustion, and the steady flame of resolve. As the crowd began to disperse, Daniel pulled Vivian aside. "You did it," he said softly, "more than you realize." Vivian smiled, eyes reflecting a future full of challenges and possibilities. "We did it," she replied. "But this is only the beginning." Together, they looked ahead, knowing the fight for justice would continue, but now with hope lighting the way. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the city as Vivian stood at the courthouse steps, the cheers of supporters still ringing in her ears. The warmth of the light contrasted with the chill that still lingered inside her, a reminder that the journey was far from over. Beside her, Daniel and Sandra exchanged glances filled with pride and determination. They had won a battle, but the war against injustice stretched far beyond the walls of the courtroom. Vivian took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on her shoulders. "We've opened a door today," she said quietly, voice steady. "A door that leads to change, not just for me, but for everyone who has been silenced." Daniel nodded. "This victory has sparked something bigger. People are watching, listening, ready to stand up." Sandra smiled, her eyes sharp. "And we'll be ready to fight alongside them." The city around them pulsed with life, bustling streets, distant sirens, voices of countless stories still waiting to be told. Vivian looked out over the skyline, the horizon glowing with the promise of a new dawn. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Together, we'll keep pushing for justice, equality, and truth." Her gaze met Daniel's and Sandra's, a silent pact among them. With steady steps, Vivian descended the courthouse stairs, her heart full of hope and determination. The journey ahead was long, but with courage and unity, they would shape a better future, one where justice was no longer a distant dream but a lived reality for all.